All right. Hi, Lion. So today we have Valerie Arbeau. Did I say your name correctly?
You did.
All right. And um, so Valerie, why don't you tell us a little bit about not what you are, but who you are and what you do. I know our topic today is learning to trust God and the importance of taking care of self through the challenges of raising two children with special needs.
Mm.
But let's hear it from your lips in your
Okay.
words about what you do and how you got to be where you are today.
Okay. Well, thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be a part of the Roaring Like a Lions. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to chat with you and to share with our audience. So, as you mentioned, I'm Valerie. I am married to Scott for 30 years, coming up in June. Woo! We have two children. Our oldest is going to be actually 20 tomorrow, which is a miracle in itself. She has cerebral palsy, so she is very involved. She's dependent for all care. And then we have Ebony, who will be 17, oh my goodness, in May, at the beginning of May. And Ebony has ADHD and just is over the last little while showing signs and symptoms of borderline personality disorder as well. So I am daytime physiotherapist, been for a long time. I'm currently working in a rural hospital and graduated earlier this year, very early this year, with life coaching and health coaching. Felt like I was being called to it and I'm loving it. I'm just so passionate about sharing with others how they can be the best version of themselves. And as you know, as a coach, we can see things that the person can't necessarily see. And it's just so, I feel so blessed to be able to help people navigate, reaching their best potential.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So your son with ADHD has what did you just say he had?
It's born cis female, so born
Oh,
girl, but identifying as non-binary, so not necessarily
okay.
wanting to be known as either male or female. So this has been a new concept for us over the last couple of years to try
Yep.
to get our heads around. We're working on it. We're getting there. But yes, borderline personality disorder. So
Okay.
that kind of manifested itself more as emotional dysregulation. So for children, they don't necessarily term it borderline personality disorder. They would call it emotional dysregulation. And this is something that we noticed with our youngest many years ago. Like the reaction to a situation or a circumstance was way more than it actually needed to be. Sort of sometimes over the top with their reaction response to things. So, and I called it emotional dysregulation, not knowing that that was actually a diagnosis. So we have been kind of reading up about borderline personality disorder, and sort of definitely this child is falling into that, as well as manifesting ADHD traits as well.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you have your hands full besides coaching other people from great experience, I see too. So give us a little glimpse, a day in the life of Valerie.
A day in the life of Valerie. So I get up early. Fortunately, I'm a morning person, so that helps.
Me too.
I do so love the quiet of the morning. And, as spring is coming, hearing the birds singing. We're fortunate we have trees in our backyard. So my husband likes to sleep in a fridge. So our bedroom is cold, but because the window's open through the night, but we do hear the birds kind of singing in the morning. So I often will creep out of bed because my husband likes to sleep a little longer than I do. But I love the mornings. I love the peace and quiet. And that's my date time with the Lord. And I just find that I need that time of quiet, time of reflection, time of gathering strength from our Lord for the day, because I know my day, every day for me is busy. So, and I know in my own strength, and especially as I'm maturing, because I'm kind of forgetting a few things here and there, but I need to realize, okay, I'll admit it, menopause.
Well, I think you're busy too, and that makes a big difference. You've got a lot going on.
Yes, so yeah, just gathering strength and direction for the day. So that's my go-to. I spend time in the Word. I love reading inspirational books. I also have my time of affirmations. So I'm, asking the Lord to bless me so that I can be a blessing to others. I've been reading the Prayer of Jabez by Bruce Wilkinson. And so I've been just kind of reading through that book and just continually reading through it. And just, realizing that that's God's purpose and his desire for all of us is to bless us more than we can ask or imagine. And he's just waiting to do it. We just have to ask.
That's right. That's right. That's interesting you bring that up because, you think of the whole Bible, of all the things that are going on in there. Here's this one little prayer.
Yeah.
And Bruce has done such a tremendous job of showing us the importance of this prayer and what all is in it. And my friend and I went through that book last year together, and
Mhm.
it's just amazing what can
Absolutely.
be going on
Absolutely.
there. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've got yourself energized, and now your house is starting to wake up. How do you said you have a daughter with cerebral palsy? For those of
Yes.
us who've never had to deal with that, maybe give us a little insight on what you do, so that maybe there's viewers out there who do have a similar situation, and
Mhm.
maybe they can gain some insight from something that you do.
Sure. So I can probably launch a little bit into the story of my child with cerebral palsy. So Melody Ann, as I mentioned, is now 20. We were given a very bleak prognosis when she was born. But to back up from there, Scott and I had decided we were going to start a family. I think we'd been married maybe 2 or 3 years at the time. And so, lots of fun trying to get pregnant. But then it started to kind of get wearing a bit thin because we were infertile.
Mm.
So we were 7 years trying to get pregnant with Melody Ann. And it turned out I had fibroids, which I wasn't even aware of. So I had them removed. Apparently, I thought there was one large one, but apparently there were 6. So they did remove them. And I was sort of told that I probably should start to try in vitro. But I had, up to this point, had almost 7 years of trying to be pregnant. I really emotionally did not feel I could carry on.
Right.
So we just opted to stop trying. By this time, I was coming up for 38. The very next month, my birthday's in July, so the very next month, August, I was pregnant.
Oh.
I cannot tell you how excited Scott and I were. He was he was so cute. I kind of felt that I was pregnant. So I said, I think probably we should go get a pregnancy test. So he came with me, we bought it. We were at a mall and he said, can we do it now? Can we check it now? I'm like, honey, I think this is something we need to do at home. so so we did go home. We did the test and he was so cute. I handed him the test as we were waiting for the result to manifest. And he's like, it says here you're pregnant. So that was our journey into becoming parents. I had a beautiful pregnancy. Unfortunately, at the end, I had a prolapsed cord, and Scott and I were not aware that a cord could prolapse. So the umbilical cord came out first. I must have been dilated, but didn't know. Because I'd had the fibroid surgery, we were going to have a C-section, a planned C-section. And that was planned 2 days before the delivery date, which was kind of a little late, but that's when it was scheduled for. So because the cord came out first, I thought it was Melody Ann's foot because I knew she was breech. Because I coughed, I had a bad chest infection. I was coughing, something came up between my legs, but it was actually the umbilical cord, which, because that happened, cut off the oxygen supply to the brain. So Melody Ann, we called the ambulance. I traveled to the hospital with a gentleman's hand up my vagina, holding everything in place on my hands and knees. Only by God's grace did Scott manage to get there to actually see Melody Ann be born. Emergency C-section, heart rate was less than 60. She was gray. They really didn't expect her to live, but they revived her. She went to the intensive care unit. And because Scott and I are healthcare workers, it wasn't a big deal for us because we both worked intensive care unit. I'm a physio, as I said, my husband's a nurse. And so it took about 24 hours for us to actually realize the severity of what was actually going on with Melody Ann. So the neonatologist, she was one Friday morning. The neonatologist came in Monday morning, fully expecting her to be gone. But she was still peeing and pooping and feeding via an NG tube, which is a gastric tube that goes up through the nose and into her tummy. And that's how she was being fed, because she was not able to coordinate her muscles to feed. And she was the biggest baby in the NICU, the NICU, because she was 39 and a half weeks gestation. And often the babies in NICU are just little preemies, little tiny things. So basically Melody Ann was sent home with palliative care. And so she was not able to feed, not able to speak. Obviously you don't speak as a baby, but didn't have the coordination of her mouth, wasn't able to move much by herself. So today, she is nonverbal, is fed with a G tube. So her tube now is through her tummy, stomach, which goes directly to her stomach. And she's wheelchair bound as well. So she's totally dependent for all care. But we just praise God that she's still here, because she was given a year. She had lots of respiratory infections. They thought that that would take her life. But she had a very strong cough and she has survived so much. So she totally is our miracle child. But I have to say, after I had that beautiful pregnancy, because I don't do vomit well, so I was fortunate I didn't throw up during my pregnancy. I didn't gain extra weight, just the tummy. And all my hopes and dreams for our little girl, because we had spent 7 years trying to create her. And when she was born, and then to realize her life expectancy was less than a year, I was mad at God. I was extremely mad. It was devastating because I had so looked forward to this precious baby. She was, we'd waited for her for a long time. God had granted me the opportunity to be pregnant. I was, in great health, and I was the closest to God I had ever been. And then to have this happen at the end of it was just beyond devastating. So I really didn't have a whole lot to say to God at this point. But because Melody Ann had been given a year to live, and because I, as a parent, I wanted her to know who Jesus was. So my thread of connection to God was through having worship with Melody Ann every morning. So my husband is very musical. So we sing the 5 songs every morning. We do the worship. We have a little, it's called Our Little Friend, which is kind of like a booklet with the stories for the children. So we would read her stories. We would pray with her. We would finish off with song and prayer. And we did that every morning. And to this day, Melody Ann is 20. She still has those same 5 songs, the same closing song. And she has her own special relationship with Jesus. So because I kept that going for Melody Ann, because I wanted her to know who Jesus was, I was able to reestablish my own relationship with God over time.
Wow.
So Melody Ann, as I mentioned, is totally dependent for all care. So my husband and I kind of got into a routine. So I would have my time with the Lord in the morning. I would do my exercise because that's what energizes me. And then we would kick into the routine for Melody Ann, which was quite involved because, again, she couldn't do anything. It involved chest physio, getting her washed up and dressed for the day, having worship with her, doing a nebulizer because of her lung status, stretching her lower legs and getting her ready for the bus when she was attending school. She's now graduated. So my husband, bless him, we tag teamed it. We did it together. We worked together as a team. We got it down to a science where we could kind of, get it done in a short space of time and make sure that she was ready for the bus. So yeah, so our days were, and that was before we started work. And both of us work at the time. I think I was working about 0.5, so 2.5 days a week, or 2 days 1 week, 3 days the next. And then it stepped up to 4 days a week, and now I'm up to 4.5 days a week.
Wow. Wow.
But with that, the lessons that I've learned with Melody Ann and some of the beautiful things that we've been able to see along the way, how Melody Ann was able to absorb her environment. she was able to sort of, pick up things and start learning things. And so we recognized that she understood colors, she understood numbers, she was learning things. And so we were able to kind of keep raising the bar with her. Over time, she got to use a communication device, which is kind of like a tablet. And it works in quadrants. So each quadrant will highlight, she'll hit a button, and then the quadrant that she wants, the words the words that are in the quadrant that she wants. She hits a button, and then it will highlight each line. She'll hit a button, then it will highlight each cell. So she's able to talk to us through this communication device, which has been awesome to see her develop in the use of that. And what we've been able to do is dare to dream for Melody Ann. So the things that we've learned are being resilient. Many times we felt beaten down, especially when Melody Ann was sick. We've had some pretty scary situations. We had one situation where Melody Ann had scoliosis surgery and ended up with an acute kidney injury. So
wow.
the neonatologist came, not neonatologist, the intensivist from the intensive care unit came to us and said, we were potentially looking at dialysis for Melody Ann. And my husband worked in dialysis for many years. And so that was devastating to hear that. And what would life look like for Melody Ann going to dialysis 3 or 4 times a week? Fortunately, again, praise God, she kicked it. She was able to get over that quickly and come home. So, through those times, God has shown us that he has his hand on her life. We've had to change our perspective. When Melody Ann was born, as I mentioned earlier, I had all these dreams. I never figure skated because I grew up in England. It didn't get that cold. So we could skate outside, and there wasn't the money in the family to send us to figure skating. There wasn't even a rink anywhere close to where we lived. So I had all these dreams for Melody Ann. And when we realized that she was never going to be able to walk, let alone skate, we had to shift our perspective. And I remember when we were in the intensive care unit reading a poem called Welcome to Holland. The name of the author escapes me right now, but she talks about parenting a disabled child. In your mind, you dream up the path, the destination. And she talks about getting on a plane, and it's like, welcome to Holland. She's like, I didn't sign up to go to Holland. I signed up to go to Italy. But she talks about in the poem how the journey and the end result has just been exciting. It's just been different. So she didn't get to see all the things in Italy, but she did get to experience Holland. And that's kind of been the same for Scott and I. We've been blessed to start a camp for kids using AAC, which is Augmentative Alternative Communication, because Melody Ann is using one. We wanted her to experience camp just like other kids. So at the time, we had a speech language pathologist, Trish Lowry, who had just been to a conference, and the conference had been talking about, it was Bridge the Gap. And so talking about using AAC, giving these children their voice. And the lady that presented that really kind of spoke to Trish was running a camp in Idaho, in Boise, Nampa. Actually, she runs it in Nampa, yes, in Idaho. And so she said, hey, do you guys want to go down to this camp? And it was only $75, but I'm thinking $75 is great for a day camp for 5 days, but like it's a 2-day drive for us from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. But you know what, we did it. And I took my scratch pad and my pen, and I was taking all kinds of notes, because I'm thinking, you know what, if this is something that works out, then maybe we can do the same thing in Alberta. And so we actually went for 4 years in a row, because it was so amazing to be in an environment where the kids were all learning, and each year to see what they had learned and what they were implementing and how much they'd grown, and networking with the families, and just sort of, seeing, well, this kid's using this, maybe Melody Ann could use that too. Just that sense of community was just amazing. So we did actually start our own camp in 2016 here in Alberta. And Anne Kuhlmeier is the director of the camp in Idaho. She agreed to sort of partner with us for the Alberta camp to be a sister camp to the one in Idaho. So she actually came up for the first year and helped facilitate our camp. So we've been blessed that we are, each year it's an annual thing. During COVID, we had to pivot to online, so virtual. This year we're going back to in person, so we're really excited. And just again, because of Melody Ann's life, because we had to shift our perspective, God has blessed us with the ability to dream and to bring that into fruition.
Right.
And
And
then
to
the other
bless others.
Exactly, exactly. And then the other thing we did too was, so this is, I'm at Melody Ann's place right now. So this was our family home. And Scott and I, when Melody Ann was 12, thought, you know what, it'd be lovely for Melody Ann to kind of have her own place where she can live independent of her parents. But we didn't figure we could actually make it happen. So we kind of put that on the back burner. We had a lovely caregiver that we had for 6.5 years. And she decided that it was time to kind of move on and do something different, which was, oh my goodness, because we don't have family here, Scott and I. Reggie was the only one that really knew Melody Ann well and understood her care, knew how to deliver her care. So this kind of threw us into a bit of a panic. So through that, God helped us revisit that dream of Melody Ann having her own place. We didn't know how we were going to make it happen, but God worked through a series of miracles. And it's just amazing and I had to learn to, because I'm very much a control freak. I'm going to hold my hand up. But I had to learn to step back and say, okay, God, this is yours. This is too big for me. I can't do this. And I had to step out of the driver's seat and allow God to work. And so that was a huge experience for me. And we have again been blessed. So Melody Ann lives in Eden House. Eden is her middle name. And we have other reasons for calling this Eden House. But we were able to, I actually reconnected with a woman who I met many years before. And as a physio, I treated her son in hospital. And I remember her telling me about the job that she does. She's a president of the agency, Options Rehabilitation Inc. And I remember her telling me about that. And God orchestrated it that our paths crossed again. And because she has worn a t-shirt, she has opened up a home for her son. He's since passed, but she understood where I was coming from because she was wearing the same t-shirt. So we were able to get Eden House going, and here we are. We're 4 years in now. So Melody Ann lives independent of Scott and I. She has 2 other housemates with disabilities. We have an agency that provides 24-hour care. And just to see all of these young ladies thrive, Melody Ann has had to learn to advocate for herself with using her communication device. She goes out and does things that I would never do. We probably wouldn't have time to take her to. She is showing empathy with her housemates when her housemates may be upset. She's had to learn that it's not all about her, and to be, just, give and take with her housemates. So it has been such a blessing to, one, give these other 2 young ladies an opportunity to live independent of their parents, and to provide like a workplace. I think we have there are about 13 staff members working here. So again, we just dared to dream. We just dared to dream and allow God to work through us. And
That's
so part of
awesome.
my passion is to share with other moms of children with disabilities, dare to dream, because you don't know what your child is capable of and what the Lord has in store for you and your family. And to be able to just be mom has been amazing. I don't have to think about when Melody Ann needs to be changed, when her feeds are due, when her medication is due. Does she need to change her position? I don't have to think about those. When I visit, I can just be mom. And that has just been so awesome. So awesome.
That's
So
wonderful.
that's Melody Ann. And so yes, for a time it was craziness busy, caring for her and making sure she got to school on time. But it's just been so beautiful now to see her become an adult in her own home, and just blossom and grow and thrive. It's just been such a blessing. And I know you had asked me a little bit about my youngest with the ADHD and the BPD. So she has, or they, sorry, let me get the pronouns right. They have been a challenge in a different way. And again, it was having to sort of shift my perspective and shift my thoughts, because I, again, had all those dreams. The dreams that I had for Melody Ann now were transferred to Ebony. And so it was, she was going to figure skate. She was going to do all these kind of stuff. And she did a lot of those things. But what we didn't recognize was that Ebony had her own issues. We noticed that she didn't deal with discipline very well. She didn't want to be on a schedule, and we had to have Melody Ann scheduled. That was just part of how we had to function with her, so we could get through our days with her. Ebony didn't respond to any kind of scheduling. Didn't respond to any discipline. We actually got her diagnosed at age, I think grade 5 with ADHD. Because it was kind of like, she's very smart and she can talk the talk and she knows what she needs to do, but it was just that follow through. And I remember as a parent thinking, Ebony, why can't you just? And not realizing that it's not that she didn't want to do these things, she just couldn't make it happen because of the way her executive functioning was working. And I've learned over the years that parts of the executive functioning can be 3 to 5 years behind. So I may have been asking Ebony to do certain things that I felt like an 11-year-old should be able to do, not realizing at the time that potentially she could have been 8 or even 5. Would I be asking that age range to be doing whatever it was I was asking Ebony to do? So it took me a while to kind of get on board with that. And I fear that I may have caused some angst for Ebony because I didn't understand.
Right. But I'm going to stop you right there. I have ADHD. I was diagnosed at 58 years of age, only
Wow.
because I knew that I was different. And when I was a kid, nobody knew about it. Then when I had children, they thought only boys had it. And there was just too many similarities. So I wanted to find out if
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was. So you can't blame yourself for not knowing, because you don't know. You don't know what it is. It's still such a new diagnosis, even though it's been around for a little while now. It's still pretty new, and it affects girls different than it does boys.
Right.
And whether you're ADD or ADHD, that makes a difference in it too. There's very highly intelligent people with ADD and with ADHD, so you can't say that intelligence is
Mm-hmm.
not for them, because it is. So when for you and for any parents out there, or brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, you cannot put the same. You can't blame yourself, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
for not knowing or for what you should have done. There's always shoulda, woulda, couldas. You only have what you
Absolutely.
do right at the moment.
Yes.
Um, but this brain is very different. It thinks different. It functions different. What might take some people 21 days, do this as a habit, you'll have it. Well, it could take someone with ADHD 3 months to get
Yes.
the habit down. And it's not that they don't want to do it. It's not that they don't have the drive to it. Their brain is just wired differently.
Exactly.
The parts
Yeah.
that work differently, which makes them
Mm-hmm.
very creative, very
Yes.
fun. There's just a lot of amazing things, but the world is not set up for ADHD people. I
Exactly.
think it's changing some, but one, don't
Mm-hmm.
blame yourself for it, because
No.
that does nobody any good. So you
No.
deal with what you have to deal with. um, you
Absolutely.
know and in your household, you've got 2 children that don't function in the normal typical world. So you wonder, well, did this happen because of that? And it's like, you got to stop all of that. This is what we
Mm-hmm.
have today. Let's just go on with there. So
Exactly.
um
Exactly. So I
I've
did get myself educated. I actually went through a program called Sanity School, which is out of the States. And it just basically is a coaching program that coaches parents to deal with their child. And so that was huge for me to sort of have an understanding of, yeah, because you realize as you're parenting these children that they don't respond the same way that you would expect. And so you have to, as you say, you have to meet them where they're at, and you can't blame yourself. And so getting yourself educated is huge. And just knowing that you have to maybe have the scaffolding up for a little bit longer for these types of children. And as you mentioned, the creativity, my child is extremely creative, musically as well as art. They write, they do all kinds of things, and just working to their strengths, but also, as you say, not blaming yourself, because this is what it is, and just working with what you have and helping them to understand that even with ADHD, ADD, you can still be contributing to society. You have a gift still to give. And so through this, I'm just trusting, we're not through this journey with this child yet. I'm still still on this journey, but I am learning so much, and remembering how God has led me in the past with Melody Ann, remembering that God was with me. He never left me nor forsook me. He will hold me with his righteous right hand. And that's what I have to continue to hold on to. And I recognize we're
exactly.
running out of time.
Yeah. That's okay. I want you to come back, Valerie. There's just so much more everybody needs to hear, and I would like to hear more. So for right now, where can people find you and learn more about what you do with your coaching, and maybe they have some questions they'd like to ask?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram or Facebook under Valerie Arbeau, Valerie, and Arbeau is ARB as in Bob, EAU. So that's Instagram, Facebook. I also have a Facebook page, Coach Valerie Ann, and you can also email me at coach.ValerieAnn, Ann with an E, at gmail.com. I'm happy to talk to people. I love to share. As you can tell, I can talk about my children for forever, but I so want to bless others with the knowledge that I've gained and what's helped me through my journey. And so I'm offering a free 30-minute call to anyone that just wants to chat about what it looks like for them, what it looks like for them to dare to dream, or if they just want to ask me questions. I'm happy to give a 30-minute free call.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today. This was really interesting. I just it's nice to hear it from the other side of of the room, so to speak, with ADHD, but to hear how you deal with cerebral palsy, and that your daughter has her own house and is functioning on her own. I mean, some people think, oh, you can't do anything. It's like people could do a lot more than what we realize.
Absolutely. When
So
you've got the Lord holding your hand and he's watching your back, there's nothing he can't do. Nothing is impossible.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, we look forward to you coming back again. And I thank you so much for being here today. And Lions, we'll see you tomorrow at 10 and at noon, and again on Wednesday at 10 and at noon. More great speakers. Wednesday, I will not be here. I actually have a training myself to attend to at 10 o'clock, but I will be here at noon. So thank you, Valerie. And they can find you on YouTube now. I'm getting that set up, and we'll talk with you later. Please come back. I'd really love
I
to
will.
have you
I
back
would
on my
love
show.
to.
All right.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it whenever it works for both of us. Take care and God bless.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Bye-bye.